The alien woman saw me fighting barehanded and whispered, "I wish you were my husband." The stars had never seemed so cold. Eli floated in the small escape pod, staring at the vast darkness outside. The crash had come suddenly, tearing his ship apart with a violent shudder. One moment he had been running diagnostics, the next alarms had screamed through the corridors, and he had been thrown into the emergency pod alone. The emergency thrusters had fired, sending him spinning away from the wreck, and then silence. When he awoke, the pod was floating above a strange planet. Its surface shimmered with colors he had never seen before: purple forests, silver rivers that glowed faintly under the twin suns, and mountains that seemed to pierce the clouds like giant crystal spears. Eli's heart raced. He had trained for emergencies, but nothing in the academy had prepared him for this, a world untouched by humans, beautiful and dangerous. The pod's automated systems beeped. "Atmosphere compatible for short-term survival," it announced. Eli exhaled, relieved, and started scanning the surface for a landing site. The pod descended slowly, settling in a clearing near a forest of towering trees with leaves that glimmered like glass. Stepping out, Eli felt the ground beneath his boots. The soil was soft but firm, and strange flowers swayed in a gentle breeze, releasing a faint luminescent glow. The air smelled sweet, like honey mixed with the freshness of rain. He took a deep breath. For the first time since the crash, he felt alive. He knew he couldn't stay in the pod. Supplies were limited, and he needed to find water, food, and shelter. The forest ahead seemed dense, but something about it called to him. It was dangerous, but Eli had never been one to turn away from a challenge. As he walked, he noticed the sounds of the planet: birds, or something like birds, singing in strange tones, the rustle of leaves as unseen creatures moved, and the distant roar of something larger. Every step made him alert. He could not afford mistakes. Hours passed, and Eli found a small stream running through the forest. Its water was clear and cold. He knelt and drank deeply, feeling energy return to his tired body. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw movement. He froze. A figure, tall and graceful, was watching him from behind a tree. The figure stepped back as soon as he looked directly. Eli's heart skipped a beat. He had been alone for so long that the presence of another being, even a strange one, startled him. He spoke slowly, hands raised. "Hello, can you understand me?" The figure didn't answer. Its skin was pale with a faint shimmer, and its eyes glowed softly, almost like moonlight. Its hair floated as if underwater, moving with a life of its own. Eli realized it was a woman, but not human. Her gaze held a mixture of curiosity and caution. He took a cautious step forward. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. I'm lost." The alien woman didn't speak. She studied him with quiet intensity, as if trying to understand something deep inside him. Eli couldn't read her expressions. They were different from human faces. Yet he felt that she was judging him, measuring him, perhaps even testing him. Eli sat by the stream, careful not to make sudden movements. He drank water slowly, letting his eyes remain on the figure. Minutes passed. He realized something. She was not alone. Small glimpses of movement in the shadows suggested creatures or companions hidden among the trees, watching. Suddenly, a rustle came from the undergrowth behind him. A large creature, taller than a horse, with sharp claws and glowing eyes, emerged. It bared its teeth and growled, low and threatening. Eli's instincts kicked in. He stood slowly, facing the creature. His hands were empty, no weapon, no tools, just his body. The creature lunged. Eli ducked, rolling to the side. He grabbed a thick branch from the ground and swung it with all his strength. The branch cracked against the creature's hide, but it did not stop. Eli realized that running would only make it chase him faster. He needed to think. Using his environment, he kicked dirt into the creature's eyes and dashed toward a cluster of trees. It followed him but moved slower, its size working against it in the dense forest. Eli climbed a tree with surprising agility, recalling training exercises from his youth. From above, he observed the creature below. It growled and tried to reach him, but the branches were strong, and Eli used them to his advantage. He leaped from one tree to another, careful not to fall. Eventually, the creature gave up and disappeared into the shadows. Eli exhaled, his body shaking from adrenaline. That's when he noticed her again. The alien woman had stepped closer during the fight. She had watched silently, her expression unreadable. As he landed lightly on the forest floor, she whispered in a voice soft like the wind, yet strangely clear in his mind. "I wish you were my husband." Eli froze. The words shocked him, not because of what they meant, but because of the way she said them. There was no threat, no jest, only awe, admiration, and curiosity. He blinked, unsure what to say. I don't understand, he said finally. She tilted her head. Her eyes seemed to pierce through him as if she could see every thought. Then, without another word, she turned and disappeared into the trees. Eli's mind raced. Who was she? Why had she watched him? And why had she said that? He realized he couldn't stay in one place. The planet was full of dangers, and staying by the stream would make him an easy target for the next predator. He needed shelter, food, and a plan. He began moving deeper into the forest, careful to leave no trail that could lead predators or strangers to him. As he walked, he thought about the strange alien woman. Her words replayed in his mind. I wish you were my husband. He had faced fear many times in his life, but this was different. This was the first sign that life on this planet might not be completely hostile. There might be intelligence here, perhaps even civilization. Eli's training kicked in. He needed to survive tonight. He found a small cave nestled against a cliff. It was shallow, but it would protect him from the cold and the creatures outside. He gathered dry branches and leaves to make a bed, then collected more for a fire. Using sparks from a metal tool, he started a small flame. The warmth was comforting, but the shadows around him still moved. Every crackle of the fire made him tense. Hours passed, and Eli remained alert. He ate some protein bars from his pack and drank from the stream he had left nearby. His mind wandered to the alien woman again. Why had she watched him fight? Why had she spoken those words? He had no answers, but one thing was clear. He had made an impression. He realized that on this planet, survival would not be enough. He would have to prove himself, not just to the creatures, but perhaps to the intelligent beings who lived here. He thought of the battles ahead, of the challenges this world would throw at him, and he felt a strange excitement. For the first time since the crash, Eli felt alive. Not just surviving, but truly alive. And somewhere deep in the forest, hidden from sight, the alien woman watched him, her thoughts a mystery even to herself. Night fell. The twin moons rose, casting silver light over the forest. Eli lay by the fire, exhausted but alert. Tomorrow he would explore further. He would find food, water, and maybe answers about this strange world, and the mysterious woman who had seen him fight with nothing but his hands. And somewhere in the shadows, a faint glimmer of curiosity mirrored his own, a silent promise that their paths would cross again. Eli woke before dawn, the fire he had built the night before reduced to glowing embers. The air was crisp, carrying a faint scent of wet earth and strange flowers. He stretched, feeling the soreness in his muscles from the climb and fight of yesterday. The forest was alive with sound now, the rustle of leaves, the soft calls of alien birds, and the distant growl of some unknown predator. He had survived the first night, but survival alone was not enough. He needed food, better shelter, and a way to understand this strange world. His mind wandered to the alien woman who had watched him fight. Her words repeated in his mind, I wish you were my husband. He didn't understand why she had said it, but it left him curious. There was intelligence behind those glowing eyes, a mind different from his own, yet sharp and thoughtful. Eli gathered his pack and left the cave, moving carefully through the forest. His first goal was the stream for water, and then he hoped to find fruit or small game. The forest was dense, with trees taller than any he had ever seen, their leaves shimmering like glass in the sunlight. Strange plants curled toward him, some harmless, some giving him a sharp sting when brushed against. He made mental notes of each plant, knowing that knowledge could mean life or death here. As he walked, he heard movement, quiet, deliberate. His hand went instinctively to his side, where he would have kept a weapon if he had one. He didn't, but he was not unprepared. Years of survival training had taught him how to use the environment. He crouched behind a tree and watched. From the corner of his vision, he saw her. Liara, the alien woman. She stepped softly through the forest, her movements fluid and silent. Her eyes glowed faintly, scanning him as carefully as he scanned her. He held his breath. She stopped a few meters away, tilting her head. Then she spoke, her voice soft but clear, not in words Eli understood, but somehow he could sense meaning. Curiosity, caution, admiration. Eli stepped forward slowly, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. I won't hurt you, he said. I just want to understand. Liara studied him for a long moment. Then she extended a hand, pointing toward a narrow path that led deeper into the forest. It was an invitation, or perhaps a challenge. Eli hesitated. He didn't know if he could trust her, but something in her eyes told him she was not an immediate threat. He nodded and followed. The path led them to a clearing filled with giant flowers that glowed softly. Strange insects hovered above them, moving in patterns Eli had never seen before. He marveled at the beauty, but Liara's eyes stayed alert, scanning the edges of the forest. "They have predators," she said finally, speaking in broken English, words that sounded careful and deliberate. "Danger, follow me." Eli nodded. He noticed that her species moved with grace, almost like dancers. Every step was measured, every motion deliberate. She paused at a small rise, pointing toward something ahead. A large shadow moved among the trees. Eli squinted. A predator, bigger than the one he had fought yesterday, emerged. Its body was sleek, covered in thick scales that glimmered under the light. Its eyes were large, glowing, and fixed on them. It snarled, a deep sound that vibrated through the ground. Eli's mind raced. He had no weapons, no tools, only his body and his wits. Liara's gaze met his for a brief moment. In her eyes, he saw confidence, almost as if she believed he could survive. Then the predator lunged. Eli reacted instinctively. He dodged to the side, rolling on the soft forest floor. He grabbed a sturdy branch and swung at the creature as it tried to snap at him. The branch hit its side but barely fazed it. He realized he needed more than brute force. He studied the creature. Its legs were strong but not very flexible. It relied on speed, not agility. Using this, Eli led it toward a cluster of vines hanging from a tree. With a swift movement, he climbed a low branch and pulled a vine down. The creature followed blindly. Eli swung the vine like a rope, tangling its legs. The predator stumbled and fell, thrashing. Liara's eyes widened. She whispered something Eli didn't understand, then motioned for him to follow. They moved deeper into the forest, careful not to draw attention. Eli's heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline keeping him sharp. When they reached a small cliff overlooking a river, Eli paused to catch his breath. Liara gestured for him to look down. The river below shimmered with a strange light, and in its reflection he saw creatures moving along the banks, large, intelligent shapes watching from the shadows. "They are everywhere," Liara said. Her voice carried a note of warning. "Predators, but few like you survive." Eli looked at her. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. She hesitated, then spoke slowly. "You strong, clever, fight with hands, not fear. Humans rare, my people respect strength. You different." Her words puzzled him, but he understood enough. She admired him. Not for who he was on Earth, but for his courage, his resourcefulness, his will to survive. They stayed near the cliff for the rest of the day, watching the forest. Eli learned to move quietly, following Liara's example. She taught him how to sense danger in the air and the rustling of leaves, even in the way the wind shifted. Eli was quick to adapt, his human instincts giving him an edge. That night, they made camp near the river. Eli built a small fire while Liara scouted the area silently. The light of the twin moons reflected on the water, casting long shadows. Eli watched her move, amazed at her agility and grace. "I saw you yesterday," he said cautiously. "Watching me fight," she nodded. "Yes, curious, strong, brave, survive, human." Eli smiled faintly. "I just did what I had to do." "You more than human," she said. Her words were soft, almost a whisper. "Wish you my husband." Eli's heart skipped. Again the words. They were strange, unexpected, and yet there was no malice, no game, just admiration. He didn't know what to say. He focused on survival instead. They needed food. Liara led him to a grove filled with strange fruits, some glowing, some hanging in clusters. She picked one, bit into it, and handed it to Eli. The taste was sweet and tart, unlike anything he had ever eaten. As they ate, Eli realized something. He was not just surviving. He was learning, adapting, and beginning to understand a world far from Earth, and he was not alone. Liara's presence, once a mystery, was becoming an anchor, a connection in this alien wilderness. The night was quiet, but Eli didn't sleep immediately. He kept watch, scanning the forest for predators. His thoughts wandered again to Liara. There was something about the way she moved, the way she observed, that reminded him of the disciplined humans he had trained with, but sharpened, enhanced, and different. Suddenly a noise came from the forest. Low, rumbling, and slow. Eli's instincts flared. A predator or something else was coming. He grabbed a sturdy branch, his mind calculating, his body ready. Liara's eyes met his. She nodded, silently telling him to stay calm. The creature emerged, massive and powerful, with scales that shimmered like molten metal. Its eyes locked onto Eli. Without hesitation, Eli stepped forward. He had no weapons, but he had his body, his reflexes, and his mind. The fight began. Eli dodged and weaved, using his surroundings, climbing trees, rolling over rocks, and striking when he could. He felt every muscle, every nerve tense with focus. The creature lunged and he countered, swinging a branch with precision. Liara watched, her eyes wide. She whispered something in her language, her voice trembling with awe. Eli could feel her admiration, her belief that he could survive. Finally, after what felt like hours, the creature stumbled and retreated into the shadows. Eli collapsed, exhausted but triumphant. Liara approached, her expression a mixture of relief and admiration. "You strong," she said softly. "Survive always." Eli smiled weakly. "I told you I just do what I must." She nodded, and for the first time, Eli saw a flicker of warmth in her eyes. He realized something profound. Survival here was not just about strength. It was about courage, intelligence, and heart. And in the heart of this alien world, he was beginning to prove that humans were more than capable of standing against any challenge. As dawn broke, the forest came alive again with sounds and colors. Eli sat by the river, Liara beside him. He knew the journey ahead would be harder, but for the first time he felt ready. He was not alone. And somewhere in the depths of the forest, the planet itself seemed to acknowledge his presence, a silent promise that more trials and discoveries awaited him. The twin suns rose slowly over the horizon, casting long golden beams across the alien forest. Eli stirred from his makeshift bed of leaves and soft moss. Liara was already awake, standing at the edge of the clearing, her eyes scanning the dense trees. She had grown more comfortable around him, though her caution remained. Eli admired her vigilance. It reminded him that even on a beautiful world, danger could appear at any moment. He stretched, his body still sore from the predator fight the night before. The forest around them was alive with movement. Small creatures scuttled between the glowing flowers, and birds, or something like birds, sang in tones that made him want to smile. For the first time, he felt he was not just surviving, but actually part of this strange new world. Liara approached him silently, her presence calm and reassuring. "Follow," she said, her English improving with each day. "I show safe place, learn, survive better." Eli nodded. He trusted her instincts. Together they moved through the forest, careful to make as little sound as possible. The terrain was tricky. Thick roots that could trip the unwary, patches of soft moss that hid holes, and strange plants that snapped shut if touched. Eli learned quickly from Liara which paths were safe and which could be dangerous. As they walked, Liara spoke of her people, though slowly and with pauses. "We live hidden, protect home, forest, outsiders rare, some dangerous." Eli listened intently. "So your people live here in secret?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, watch, forest, care, balance, life all connected." It amazed Eli how much he had to learn. On Earth, survival meant shelter, food, water, and safety from other humans or wild animals. Here, it meant understanding a complex ecosystem he barely comprehended and learning quickly enough to stay alive. Liara's presence made it possible. Hours passed as they moved deeper into the forest. Eli's muscles ached, but he pushed on, determined to keep pace. Liara occasionally stopped to gesture at something, a plant, a rock, or a sound. He followed her instructions, sometimes mimicking her movements to avoid detection from predators. Finally, they reached a small valley where the trees grew tall but spaced apart. Sunlight filtered down and a stream ran through the center, its water sparkling. Eli breathed a sigh of relief. This place seemed safe, at least for now. Liara stopped at the edge of the stream. She knelt, scooping water into her hands, then offered some to Eli. He drank deeply, feeling the cold water invigorate his body. "Better?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "Much better." Liara nodded. "Stay, learn, tomorrow hunt, I show how survive." Eli felt a thrill of anticipation. He had learned from books, training, and instincts, but this would be different. He would learn from someone born into this world, someone who had mastered it completely. That night, as they camped near the stream, Eli felt the forest shift around them. The sounds of creatures filled the air. Liara stood watch, her eyes glowing faintly under the moonlight. Eli marveled at her vigilance, realizing that despite her calm demeanor, she was ready for any threat. "You strong," she said softly. "Not just fight, think, clever, brave." Eli smiled faintly. "I do what I must," he replied. "I have to survive." Liara's gaze lingered on him. "Humans unusual, fear small, heart big, I wish you mine." Eli's pulse quickened. Her words again. They were strange, startling, yet there was no mockery, only admiration. He didn't know what to say. Instead, he focused on tomorrow, on learning more, on surviving. Morning came, and Liara led him to a nearby slope where strange animals grazed. They were smaller than the predator he had faced, but fast and alert. She taught him how to stalk them, how to move silently through the underbrush, how to read the wind and the signs of danger. Eli listened and learned. He discovered that his human reflexes gave him an advantage. He could anticipate movement, plan quickly, and act without hesitation. Liara watched him closely, her eyes gleaming with admiration and a touch of amazement. They spent hours tracking a small herd of creatures. Eli crouched behind a rock as they fed, trying to remain unseen. He noticed a sharp movement, a predator watching from the shadows. He whispered to Liara, pointing. She nodded, and together they devised a plan. Eli picked up a long branch and used it to mimic the movement of a falling log. The predator, distracted, leapt toward it, giving the herd a chance to escape. Liara's eyes widened in surprise and approval. "Clever human," she said. Eli shrugged. "I've had practice," he said lightly, though his heart raced from the thrill. After the successful hunt, they returned to the valley with small game and edible plants. Eli cooked some over a fire while Liara watched. She had never seen humans use fire like this before, and her fascination was clear. "You use fire?" she asked. "Yes," Eli replied. "It helps me survive, keep warm, cook food, protect against predators." Liara nodded slowly. "Power, clever human." As evening fell, a new danger approached. A shadow moved along the forest edge, a pack of predators larger and faster than any Eli had seen. They were hunting, and he realized with a sinking heart that he might be the target. Liara's expression turned serious. "They hunt." "You fight." Eli tightened his grip on a branch. "I have to," he said. "No choice." The creatures emerged from the shadows, circling, growling, and showing their sharp teeth. Eli sized them up. There were 3 of them, each bigger than him, each faster. He knew brute strength alone would not be enough. He needed to think, to act, to survive. He lured the first toward a pit he had spotted earlier, using sticks and branches to guide it. It stumbled, narrowly avoiding falling in, but that split-second hesitation gave him an opening. He leapt onto a rock and swung at the second predator, striking with precision. Liara watched in awe. "Strong human," she whispered. Eli fought with his body, his instincts, his mind. He dodged claws, rolled under swings, and used branches and rocks to defend himself. The predators were relentless, but he was faster, smarter, and more determined. He moved with a grace and cunning that surprised even him. After a tense and exhausting struggle, the predators finally retreated. Eli stood, breathing heavily, his body covered in scratches and bruises, but alive. Liara approached, her eyes bright with admiration. "You fight alone," she said. "Brave human." Eli shook his head. "I'm not alone," he said quietly. "You were here, you taught me." Her gaze softened. "Yes, teach, learn together." As night fell, they returned to their camp, the fire flickering against the shadows. Eli reflected on the day. He had survived, he had learned, and he had earned Liara's respect. For the first time, he felt that humans were not weak in this alien world. They could survive, adapt, and even thrive. Liara sat beside him, silent but close. Eli realized that in her own way, she was acknowledging him, not just as a survivor, but as someone remarkable. His courage, his mind, and his heart had proven themselves. The night was quiet, but Eli's thoughts were restless. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more dangers, and perhaps more discoveries. Yet for the first time, he felt a strange sense of hope. With Liara by his side, he was not just surviving. He was beginning to belong. And somewhere deep in the forest, hidden from sight, the planet seemed to watch them both, its mysteries waiting to unfold. The morning fog hung low in the alien forest, curling around the glowing trees like silver ribbons. Eli and Liara moved carefully, following a narrow path that led deeper into unknown territory. The previous days had taught them much about survival, about the dangers of the planet, and about each other. They trusted one another, and in this trust lay their greatest strength. Liara paused suddenly, raising her hand. Eli froze, scanning the shadows. "What is it?" he whispered. "Others not like us," she said, her eyes narrowed. "Watch, careful." Eli followed her gaze. Through the mist, he saw movement, figures humanoid but clearly alien, armed with weapons that glowed with strange energy. They were the same species as Liara, but taller, bulkier, and menacing. Their expressions were hard, their intentions clear. They were not friendly. Liara's voice was tense. They do not like human want stop you. Eli's heart raced. He had faced predators, natural hazards, and overwhelming odds, but this was different. These were intelligent beings with strategy and weapons. He had to rely on not just strength, but brains, skill, and courage. Let me help, he said quietly. We can outsmart them. Liara nodded. Yes, together. They hid behind a cluster of glowing bushes, watching the alien faction move closer. Eli noted their patterns, the way they spread out, how they scanned the forest, and how they communicated silently with gestures. He whispered instructions to Liara, showing her how to move quietly, avoid the open areas, and use the terrain to their advantage. The first encounter came sooner than expected. One of the enemy scouts stumbled into a trap Eli had improvised, a pit covered with branches and leaves. It fell in with a loud crash, giving away their position. The other aliens raised alarms, their voices sharp and commanding. Liara's eyes widened. We must fight, she said. Eli nodded. Yes, but smart, not just force. The battle began. Eli used his surroundings to his advantage, leading the enemy into narrow pathways where their larger bodies became a disadvantage. He swung branches, rolled under attacks, and used his agility to strike weak points. Liara, following his lead, used her knowledge of the terrain to set up small traps and misdirect the enemy. Despite their careful strategy, the enemy was skilled. One alien lunged at Eli with a spear-like weapon. Eli dodged, grabbing a loose branch and striking, forcing the alien to stumble. Another approached from the side, but Liara intercepted, pushing the creature away with surprising strength. Eli marveled at her abilities. She was fast, strong, and intelligent, a warrior of her own people. But together they were unstoppable. They moved as one, his human ingenuity and her alien instincts forming a perfect partnership. Hours passed in a tense dance of strategy and combat. Eli realized that these aliens respected strength, strategy, and courage. With each move, he proved that humans were not weak, not helpless, and not easily defeated. The enemy began to falter, showing hesitation and doubt. Finally, after a long and exhausting fight, the alien faction retreated. Eli and Liara stood side by side, breathing heavily, their bodies scratched and bruised but victorious. You, human, clever, Liara said softly, awe in her voice. Strong, survive, fight together. Eli wiped sweat from his brow. We did it together, he said. I couldn't have done it alone. Liara's eyes softened. Yes, together, you different, brave, strong, heart big. For a moment, the forest seemed to exhale, as if acknowledging their victory. The danger had passed, but the encounter left them both aware that survival here required constant vigilance, courage, and partnership. Over the next few days, Eli and Liara worked to strengthen their position in the forest. They built a hidden camp, camouflaged among the glowing plants where they could rest, plan, and prepare. Eli's human skills were invaluable. He crafted traps, reinforced shelters, and organized their food supply. Liara taught him about the planet's ecosystems, showing him which plants were safe, which animals could be hunted, and which areas were safest during storms. During their downtime, they shared stories. Liara spoke of her people, their customs, and the delicate balance of their forest home. Eli spoke of Earth, of human history, and the strange and varied lives he had known before the crash. Each story built a bridge between their worlds, helping them understand one another in ways words alone could not. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Liara spoke softly. You, human, not like others, fear small, heart strong, I wish you mine. Eli looked at her, the words familiar now, and felt a warmth in his chest. I don't know what to say, he admitted, but I trust you. You've saved me, taught me, and fought with me. I respect you. Liara nodded, her eyes reflecting the firelight. Respect, good. But more heart, strong, brave, survive together. Their bond had grown stronger, forged in survival, strategy, and mutual admiration. They had faced enemies, predators, and the unknown, and had proven themselves. Eli realized that in this alien world, humans could not only survive, they could thrive, adapt, and inspire respect. The next morning, they received word of another threat, a group of predators approaching from the north. Eli and Liara knew they had to act quickly. They moved to a higher ridge overlooking the valley, studying the terrain and planning their defense. Eli's mind raced. He considered every possible tactic, traps, ambushes, and using the environment to their advantage. Liara contributed with insights about predator behavior, movement patterns, and weak points. Together, they devised a plan that relied on strategy, timing, and teamwork. When the predators arrived, Eli led them into a narrow gorge where their size and speed became disadvantages. He dodged, rolled, and struck, using rocks and branches to slow them down. Liara flanked them from above, setting traps and forcing the predators into disadvantageous positions. The battle was intense, but Eli's human ingenuity and Liara's alien instincts won the day. The predators retreated, leaving the forest quiet once more. Eli and Liara stood together, exhausted but victorious, their bond stronger than ever. "You fight, clever, strong human," Liara said. "I respect brave, heart big." Eli smiled, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. "We did it together," he said. "I couldn't have done it without you." As night fell, the twin moons rose, casting silver light over the forest. Eli and Liara sat by the fire, reflecting on their victories and planning for the future. They knew more challenges would come, but they also knew they could face them together. Eli realized that survival on this planet was not just about strength. It was about courage, intelligence, and heart. And in the heart of this alien world, he had proven that humans were capable, resilient, and worthy of respect. Liara looked at him, her eyes glowing softly. "Together, always survive, strong, brave, human," Eli nodded. "Yes, together." The forest was quiet now, but the air was charged with the promise of future challenges, discoveries, and adventures. And somewhere deep within the trees, the planet itself seemed to recognize their courage, their partnership, and the bond that had formed between two beings from different worlds. They had faced the enemy within and emerged stronger, wiser, and closer than ever. And as they looked toward the horizon, Eli knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test their limits, their courage, and the strength of their hearts. The sun rose slowly over the alien forest, spilling golden light across the glowing trees and shimmering rivers. Eli stretched, feeling the soreness in his muscles from yesterday's battles. He had grown stronger with each challenge, his body and mind sharper than ever. Liara stood nearby, her eyes scanning the forest as usual, alert for any danger. Today was different. Eli could feel it. The air was heavy, charged with anticipation, as if the forest itself knew something important was about to happen. He looked at Liara. "You feel it too, don't you?" She nodded, her gaze serious. "Yes, danger greater, not like before, must ready." Eli checked his improvised weapons, branches sharpened into stakes, stones arranged for throwing, and traps hidden along the forest paths. But more than weapons, he relied on his mind. Every fight, every encounter had taught him to think, plan, and act quickly. They moved quietly through the forest, following a narrow trail that led to a cliff overlooking the valley. From this height, Eli could see the approaching threat, a massive group of enemy aliens, larger and more organized than any he had faced before. They carried weapons that glowed with a strange energy, and their movements were coordinated, precise, and disciplined. Liara's eyes widened. "They want all humans gone, fear, power, strong." Eli nodded. "We'll stop them together." They descended into the valley, careful to remain hidden. Eli set traps along likely paths of attack. Pits camouflaged with leaves, vines rigged to trip intruders, and rocks balanced to roll down slopes. Liara contributed by teaching him about the weaknesses of the enemy's species, pointing out where their armor was thin and where their speed could fail them. As the enemy drew closer, Eli's heart pounded. This was not just survival, this was a battle for respect, for trust, and for the chance to prove that humans could stand against any force. He glanced at Liara. "Are you ready?" She nodded, her glowing eyes reflecting determination and confidence. "Yes." Together, survive strong. The battle began. The first wave of enemy aliens charged down the slope, weapons raised. Eli waited, staying low behind rocks, observing their movements. When the first enemy stepped into the trap, a pit hidden by leaves, it fell with a loud crash. The others hesitated, giving Eli the opening he needed. He moved with precision, dodging attacks, swinging branches, and using rocks to strike weak points. Liara flanked the enemies, setting traps and misdirecting them. Together, they were a perfect team, human ingenuity and alien instincts working in harmony. Hours passed in a tense and exhausting struggle. The enemies were relentless, but Eli and Liara were faster, smarter, and more determined. Each trap, each maneuver, and each strike demonstrated that humans were not weak, not helpless, and not easily defeated. At one point, a large enemy alien lunged at Eli with a spear-like weapon. Eli dodged, rolling under its swing, and countered with a strike to its leg. Liara intercepted another enemy, using her strength and agility to disable him without serious harm. Their movements were coordinated, almost like a dance, each anticipating the other's actions. Despite the enemy's size and numbers, Eli's strategies began to work. The trap slowed them, the terrain worked against them, and the combined skill of Eli and Liara turned the tide. The enemies faltered, showing hesitation and fear. Finally, after what felt like hours, the remaining enemies retreated, disappearing into the forest shadows. Eli and Liara stood side by side, exhausted but victorious. The forest was silent, as if holding its breath in awe of what had just occurred. "You, human, brave, strong, clever," Liara said softly. "I respect heart big." Eli smiled, feeling a warmth he had never known. "We did it together," he said. "I couldn't have done it alone." Liara's gaze softened. "Yes, together, humans different, survive, inspire." The days that followed were filled with rebuilding and learning. Eli and Liara worked to strengthen their hidden camp, adding new traps, improving their shelter, and mapping safe paths through the forest. Eli taught Liara about human problem-solving and improvisation, while she taught him more about the alien world, the plants, the creatures, and the secret ways her people moved through the forest. Their bond deepened. They learned to communicate more clearly, sharing not just words but ideas, strategies, and even hopes. Eli realized that trust and respect could bridge worlds, and that courage was recognized everywhere, even in an alien species. One evening, as they sat by a fire, Liara spoke softly. "You, human, strong heart, brave, survive always, I wish you mine." Eli looked at her, the words familiar now, and felt a warmth in his chest. "I trust you, I respect you. We fight together, survive together." Liara nodded, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Together, always, strong, brave, heart big." As night fell, the forest seemed to breathe with them. The air was calm, and the glowing plants cast gentle light over the clearing. Eli felt a sense of peace, knowing that they had survived not just because of strength, but because of intelligence, courage, and unity. The next day, a new challenge appeared, but this time it was different. Instead of enemies, a small group of Liara's people approached. They had been observing Eli and Liara, curious about the human who had fought alongside their warriors and survived. Eli stood tall, ready, but respectful. The aliens approached slowly, their expressions cautious. Liara stepped forward, speaking in their language. The humans could not understand, but the tone was calm, explanatory, and reassuring. After a long discussion, the alien group nodded, their demeanor softening. They had seen Eli's courage, his ingenuity, and his heart. In their eyes, humans were no longer outsiders or weaklings. They were worthy of respect. Liara turned to Eli. "They see, human strong, you earned place among us." Eli felt a swell of pride. He had come to this planet alone, stranded and unsure. Now he was not only surviving, he was respected, trusted, and recognized. Over the next few days, Eli and Liara worked with her people, sharing knowledge, learning from them, and building a bond between humans and aliens. Eli taught them strategies for survival, improvisation, and problem-solving. In return, they taught him secrets of the forest, advanced techniques for movement, and ways to coexist with the creatures of the planet. The alliance grew stronger with each passing day. Humans and aliens, once strangers, now stood together, united by courage, respect, and mutual admiration. Eli felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had proven that humans could survive, adapt, and inspire even in the most alien of worlds. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Liara approached Eli. "You, human, brave, strong heart, big always, I wish you mine, together protect forest, people, life." Eli smiled. "Together," he said, feeling the weight and promise of her words. "We protect, survive, learn together." They stood side by side, looking out over the forest. The trees glowed softly, the rivers shimmered, and the air was alive with the sounds of creatures. The forest had become a home not just for Liara and her people, but for Eli as well. He realized that this world, once strange and dangerous, had become a place of possibility. Humans could thrive here, not just survive, but live, learn, and inspire. And in the bond between him and Liara, a new chapter had begun, one of unity, courage, and hope. The forest held many secrets, challenges, and dangers, but Eli and Liara knew they could face them all. Together, they were unstoppable. Together, they had proven that strength, Intelligence, courage, and heart could bridge worlds, forge alliances, and create a future where humans and aliens could stand side by side. As night fell, the glowing plants lit their path. Eli and Liara walked hand in hand through the forest, ready for whatever adventures awaited them. The alien world, once mysterious and threatening, was now a place of friendship, respect, and the promise of discovery. And somewhere deep within the forest, the planet itself seemed to recognize the courage of a human and the wisdom of an alien, acknowledging the new alliance and the beginning of a story that would be told for generations to come. Eli had come to this world alone, but he was no longer alone. He had found a friend, a partner, and a future. And with Liara by his side, he knew that humans were capable of greatness, even among the stars. The journey had begun with survival, but it ended with unity, respect, and hope, proof that courage, intelligence, and heart could change worlds.